welcome back, everybody. I hope you all got a good break. You took, grabbed some coffee, some wine, who knows, a nightcap, depending on where you are. We're here with Nikolina Mihić. She's going to be talking about the power of mindset and grit, uh, what positive psychology teaches us about success. We can wait a couple of seconds to see if more people join. But in the meantime, I'd like to introduce Nikolina. She is a psychologist. She currently has a role as a human resources specialist, and she also has experience training and helping young people find their way in their first careers. So I think that's great. And she's also joining us from Zagreb in beautiful Croatia. So if we're all set, are you good to start? I'll just give you the
Yes,
floor.
yes. Good, great. Thank you so much for this introduction. And hello to everyone who has decided to join us for this session. I have to say that I'm really excited to be here and excited to talk about this topic. So to begin with, I have prepared like this really, really easy and simple question. That's just something for you to think about. And the question is, what it takes to be successful? Like I said, it's a really easy one. And why I decided to start with this is because I believe that this is something that almost all of us, if not all of us, are asking ourselves at one point in our life or another. I know that this is something that I have struggled with often. I have wondered about this often, and it's something that's really important on my personal journey. So that's why I decided to share a couple of insights that I have learned along the way. So while you think about your question, I would like to share with you a little bit about my own personal experience with this. So like Mariana said, I'm a psychologist. And if we go back like 2.5 or 3 years ago in my life, I was working as an occupational and clinical psychologist at our local health center. So basically, I was working with people who had some sort of health or mental health issues. I was working on assessments, and I was talking to people, and the general idea was to help them get better and live a better, healthier life. And that was something that I have always wanted to do. Ever since that I knew that I wanted to be a psychologist, ever since I was in high school, I had this idea that I was going to work with people who had difficulties, and that I was going to help make their lives better. And those would be topics of mental health and how to live like this fulfilled life, and how to deal with everything that happens on our daily basis. And so basically, it was my dream job. And it was also something that I was good at. I still am good at listening to people. I can really easily see other people's perspectives. People feel they can easily open up to me, and I can support them in a way that they need. And I'm not saying this just to like brag about myself, but this was something that everyone from my surrounding was also telling me. And basically the general consensus was that it was something I was good at, it was something I was talented, I was natural, and of course I'm going to be successful in it. So we are like I said, 2.5 to 3 years ago, and I'm here at my job. And I'm doing this thing that I am talented at, and everything was supposed to be great. I was supposed to be successful. And then one day it was this like really busy, really stressful day. And I just had this realization that I hate it there. So, and the problem was I didn't want to come back, not that day, not the next day, or any day after that. And another problem was that I was still good at it. I was still good at talking to people. I still liked talking to my patients. People still opened up to me. And in that terms, you can say that I was successful, but still I felt really, really miserable. And to be honest, this part that I was like talented, like, it wasn't enough. It only made things really, really worse. So I was feeling quite lost, quite confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And especially because when I was thinking about it, like, okay, I have this talent, but what do I don't have? Do I have passion? Am I passionate about this job? No, I'm not. Am I motivated to do it? No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. Am I putting in enough effort? And now for this, I would say yes, I tried. I tried really hard. I can't say I didn't try. It was, after all, my dream job, but it wasn't quite enough. And did I find any purpose, any meaning, anything useful in it? Also, no. So I didn't figure out how I can use the job that I was doing to make a change. And if you put it all together, I really wasn't successful in it. And then my job ended, since it was a fixed term contract. And then I was looking for the next role I was going to take. And practically by accident, I enrolled in an online course on positive psychology. And it was something new, it was something interesting, it was something that I have never done in my studies, which was weird because I graduated only like a year before that. So it's a pretty new area. And that's where I discovered these lovely areas that I decided to share with you today. First of all, positive psychology deals with this general area of well-being. It works on how we can use the experiences that we have and how we can make our lives better. It's by focusing on positive emotions, on the relationships that we nurture, on figuring out our strengths and working with what we have. And also, this big topic is how we can make sure that we are more successful in everything that we are doing. And by doing some more research, I discovered two really, really great areas. And those are the two areas that I want to share with you today. First one is the research on topic of grit, which is mostly done by Angela Duckworth. Now, if you're not familiar with this term, don't worry, I'm going to explain it a little bit later. And the second big area was work done on mindset, mostly by Carol Dweck. And what those two areas together brought me was this, like, a combination of guidelines and tools, which can really, really help me figure out what can I do to ultimately become successful. Now, to be honest, I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I'm nearly as successful as I can be, but what I know now for sure is that that is something that I can do. Even though the job that I was doing, that I was talented, that was supposed to be the successful one, didn't work out. So now I wanted to share with you how it goes. First of all, what psychology actually can bring us here, and I always like to call it like positive psychology in action, because oftentimes when we talk about theories, it usually remains in this like theoretical area. But what it brought me and what I really can share with you is this idea of how success and happiness are interconnected and how both are important and what we can do to achieve both of them. The second big thing, and that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I have learned, is how to use our own thoughts and experiences to work for us, not against us. Because I am sure that most of us have many, many experiences that they would perhaps like to forget, that they were embarrassing, or they didn't want to they don't know how to make anything positive out of them, but I can tell you that it's really possible and definitely a good source of inspiration. And the third thing that we have is this idea that positive psychology can bring us, and that's how to fall in love with what you are doing. But not just falling, it's all about staying in love in the long run. Because falling in love is easy. You know, you get those butterflies, everything is nice, you're all happy, everything is smiles and sunshines. But what happens after a time passes, after you see all the sides that are not so good, all the things that may be not what you like? The idea is how to stay in love with what you're doing for the long run. So to help you on that, I have prepared three, I would like to call them lessons, that had the biggest impact on my own life, on my personal life, and also that I notice are really, really general and applicable to everyone. So the first one is this formula for success. The second one are a couple of ways that we can develop grit. And like I said, we would talk about what grit is. And the third one is how to achieve the right mindset, which is going to make all of it possible. So I think that in the next around 15 minutes, we will go through all of this. And in the end, I have prepared some really, really good questions for you. And I hope that you will find them insightful. So to begin with, the formula for success, which first of all I decided to call the secret formula for success, because I think that everything in life is better when it has like a secret formula to it. So basic formula is boring, secret formula is fun. So the question we need to ask here is talent enough? If you remember from the beginning of my presentation, like talent was supposed to be enough for me to be successful. And the answer here is yes, talent, well, actually talent is important, but it's not enough. Talent can help us in that first part, when we are just starting to learn a new skill or to develop it or to bring it to a certain level. When we combine some effort into it, talent can help us get to that stage faster. So maybe we will learn a new language faster than someone who is not talented at it. But where does the true success lies? The true success and achievement is when we take that skill, that like base level, and we put in more effort and more practice and more hours and more everything. And I see here in the comments that Mariana wrote that success takes a lot of work. And that's exactly it. Like talent is important, but here in the second part is where the true success happens. So if we look from this formula, from like this purely mathematical side, you can see they say that talent matters, that's true, but effort counts twice. So if you ever feel that you are not perhaps talented enough or that's not something you're going to be good at, just keep this in mind. Effort counts twice. Okay, so now that we have learned that we can all be really successful by this formula, and now how to develop it, how to make it sustainable in the long run. And this is where grit comes to play. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with this topic, grit is this concept which was first of all researched by Angela Duckworth. She even has this great book on the topic. It's also called Grit. And the easiest way perhaps to define it is like this combined power of passion and perseverance, which allows us to achieve our long-term goals. And how does grit look in action? I am sure that all of you know at least like one person who they're really successful at what they're doing. They really love their job. They're always persevering. And no matter what happens at them, even if a project fails or they lose some money or they lose some clients, they always find a way to get back up. They always figure out some new ways, some new venture. They find some new possibility. And those people are the gritty people. And the good news that I have for you is that grit is something that can be learned. And how to learn it is exactly what I want to share with you today. So if we talk about developing grit, it is a little bit broader concept than what I wanted to share in this like a couple of minutes. But the three main steps or the three stages that I found are related to interest, to meaning, and to change. And now we will go through each of them. And I would like to invite you to think about on your own journey and where you stand in each of these areas. So when we talk about interest, I always have this feeling that people think that interest is something that you are just like walking down the street and then one day you just find it around the corner. Oh, great, there's my interest. Now I'll take it and now I'll use it or have it for the rest of my life. Well, that may be true for some people, but for most, myself included, that is not the case. And what about those people who have the interest, but then they lose it, or then they figure out that that's not it? Like, what then? Also good news for you I'm full of good news today, is that interest is something that it's built and not discovered. So how the process goes? It goes somewhere like this. We start with this like basic discovery. Basic discovery in the sense of that we perhaps try something new and figure out we like it. Okay, great. We have some new experiences. We meet some new people. We read some interesting book, an article, or watch a movie, and we figure out, oh, this may be something that I may like. And that's okay. And then the next step is to explore that interest. For example, if you have discovered that, or painting is something that's like that you're really curious about, and you decide, okay, I'll go see if I can paint. Why not? So you buy some supplies, you buy the canvas, you buy the colors, you try painting it a little bit. That's okay, great. And that's basically where most people make a mistake, is that they stop while they're at this like very superficial level of exploring. I'm sure that you may know someone, if not yourself, who is one of those people like, okay, and now I'm into painting, I'm going to buy everything that I need. And then you do like 2 paintings and then it stays in the shed for like the next 10 years. Now, okay, it's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but basically that's how it goes. To really build our interest, we need to explore it a bit further. We need to put in more effort and more energy because we need to go beyond the surface. We need to like dig a little bit deeper. If you think about experts in an area, what's interesting to them? It's the little differences in their field of expertise. For example, if you're an expert painter, or let's start with a novice painter. If you're new at painting, you're going to be really happy if you see a house. Oh, yay, I painted the house. Great. But if you're an expert painter, you're going to be more focused on, okay, this shadow is great, but I think it should have been a little bit more to the right. So the next time, those little details, and then I'm going to be happy with it. So to get to that level, we need to explore it a little bit further. Now, I don't say here that you need to explore an interest until you're in the expert level, just to go beyond the surface. And then what can happen? There are 2 ways, two options. One option is that you have discovered that that's something that you like, that you are more interested in, and you want to know more. And that's great. That's your interest. And then what you do, you discover it further. You go into more depth, into more detail, into more exploration. But what if you decide that it's not for you, that it's not good? Well, then you go back to the beginning. You find something new, and then also go into this exploration phase. You may go back once again, and once again, and once again, no matter how long it takes, but there's this idea that's important, that interest can be built. And this is the way how to do it. Okay, so now let's say that we have discovered our interest. Next step is to find meaning. Now, the question here is this thing that you are doing, is it meaningful to you? And how to do that? Well, first, you discover your interest, like we just talked about, and it should be a selfish interest, like it should be something that's like, that you are really happy about. Then you do some disciplined development. That's also something that we talked about. And then the third step is to figure out how you can use what you are doing in a way that it can help others. It's like this concept of figuring out this sweet spot between what I am doing right now and what the world needs, and how we can connect the 2. And in that place, as people say, it's where the magic happens. And perhaps to make it a little bit clearer, I have one of my favorite metaphors on the importance of meaning, and it's about the 3 bricklayers. And it goes something like this. So in a small town, they were down the street, they were building this new building, and it was supposed to be a cathedral. And there were 3 bricklayers who were doing their jobs. So the people asked the first bricklayer, "What are you doing? What are you building?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just here laying bricks." Okay, great. Then they asked the second one, "Okay, so what are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm building a church." Okay, great. And then they came to the third one and they asked him also, "What are you doing?" And his answer was with this like big smile down his face. And he said, I am building the house of God. Now, I am not a religious person, but that metaphor is really beautiful to me because it can really show how we can find meaning and figure out what the world needs, even in jobs which most of us would consider that there is no way it can be meaningful at all. So just something to think about where you stand at. And the next step, which I am a little bit biased because this may be my personal favorite one, is the change part. Now I wanted to share with you this quote by Gandhi, be the change that you wish to see in the world. And personally, I love it because there are these two really important parts. The first one is this part about the change, meaning that we need to be proactive, that we need to make some sort of an effect, a ripple in our surroundings. And then the second one is this part where it connects to the world, because we often forget that we are all part of the community, no matter if it's our family, if it's the work that we do, if it's like the city we live in, the country, or the planet in general. We are all part of community and we need to do something about it. So how can we approach it? There are also three main areas. The first one would be to find a way to support other people, no matter what that is, whether it's support them just by saying you can do this, whether it's support in a physical or financial way. The idea here is to see where other people come from, what they stand for, and what we can do to support them in that. The next part, the next thing that we can do is to find and or build our own community. And I would like to say that, for example, this conference and this community of people who have decided to join here and help other first-time speakers like myself is a great and brilliant example of how community can be important and how you can make the change in the world in such a basically small but really meaningful way. And the third part is to do what you do and make it a part of your identity, make it visible. It's that saying like walk the talk. Show people what you stand for and show people that you're not afraid to try new things for what you stand for. It's okay to try and fail as long as it's something that you strongly believe in. And those are the three areas or three main ways which we can take to help us develop our grit and to become one of those like really cool people who, no matter what happens to them, we always persevere. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you today is what I called like the main ingredient, perhaps, or the right mindset without which none of these things would be possible. And when we talk about mindset, of course, we talk about growth mindset. Now, I know that some of you may be familiar with this topic. Sorry. And this is mostly done by work of Carol Dweck, as opposed growth mindset as opposed to fixed mindset. For those of you who may not know it, or just as a recap, how the growth mindset works. You find something that you like, or you learn about something new, and then there's this like, okay, this sounds interesting to me. So there's this learning part. And then you decide, okay, I want to try this. Why not? Let's see how it goes. And then you try part. And the next, one of my favorite parts, is the fail part. Because probably in like 99.9% of time, you are going to fail at some point. Failure can be in terms of it's not perfect or you failed catastrophically. It all depends. But the important thing is that people with a growth mindset are going to take that failure with a big smile on their faces. Why? Because they realize that it's a great opportunity to learn. From failure can come some of our greatest lessons, and failure is a great feedback because it will help us like really pinpoint on what can I do to become better at it. So failure is good and failure is encouraged. And after we learn something from it, what do? We try again. and most likely we fail again, but that's okay because we know that this cycle is going to continue and that failure is something that it's more than welcome. So to share with you just the last thought on this growth mindset is this little trick that I always like to do. Now, I want you to imagine, and I'm sure that most of you at some point have that little voice in your head that says, I can't do it. No matter what the activity is, it's like, I can't do it. There's no why bother. I'm not going to be good at it. I just can't. So just imagine how that sentence feels. Like when I was applying for this conference, the first voice was, no, I'm not going to apply because I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I'm not a speaker. Okay. So what can you do? With just one simple word, one small thing, you can reframe your entire mindset, and that is, I can't do it yet. And just imagine yourselves with this, I can't do it yet, and you will feel this like enthusiasm in a way, like, okay, great, I can't do it yet, but I am going to do it. And that's it. That's the whole magic of the growth mindset. And now we have come to the very end, and I would like to end with just having you imagine your most successful self, or more successful self if you're not sure how your most successful self looks like. Imagine that person. What does he or she do? How do they look like? How do they interact with the world? What are they thinking about? What are they feeling? Who are they? Just think about them for a second. And now I would like to share with you a couple of questions which can help you decide what can you do today which will help you get one step closer to that person. Now, this depends on the part of the journey where you're at. If you're in defining your interest part, the question that you can ask yourself is, what's my next step? What's like this one little thing that I can do which will help me discover my passion further? That's it. If you're in the finding meaning part, the question for you is, what's one little way that you can make your work more meaningful? That's just it. Just one little way. It doesn't have to be anything grand. Remember that metaphor of the builders. It can be simply as reframing your thoughts. And if you are in the part where you can make a change, the question is, what's one way I can do to support someone else? It's as simple as that. And the question that I would like all of you to ask yourselves, and this is in the end, and this is the one related to mindset, and one of my favorite questions of all time, and something I'm going to finish with, is what can you fail at today? That's it. So thank you so much.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Nikolina, for that. That was a great ending. It really made me laugh. Um, we don't have that much time, but we can just give it a couple seconds, see if we have any questions from the audience. I honestly really like the way you made it easier. Actually, that was one of my questions for you. What can you say to people that are feeling like they can't do it yet? But I think you described it really well. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Well, I think that's just depending on where they are in their journey. And I just wanted to say that these questions, these steps, they're not necessarily linear. You may find your meaning in the beginning, but as you explore further, you may need to rephrase that in a way. So it's just like it's a journey. And like I said in the beginning, I feel like I am on the journey, but I know that there's still a long way to go. And that's okay. Because if you remember that failing part, I really love it. And, I'm going to fail at so many things, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and kind of like you mentioned, you keep exploring. Maybe you find something you're not really interested about. You can go back, keep exploring.
That's right.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your presentation. So thank you so much for
Thank
speaking
you.
up and coming up
Thank
on
you.
stage with us. We're gonna end the session right now because we don't want to go over the closing session. But please join John for the closing session of the day and of the entire conference. And just give a quick round of applause to our speaker here today. She was wonderful.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
everybody, for joining. Thank you, Nikolina, and we'll see everyone in the closing session.
See you. Bye.
Bye.